Hello? Hello? Okay. Say one. You all ready to roll? We'll just wait one minute. I just want to remind folks that if you have a question or a comment you don't feel like asking, or you feel like we're up against the clock, we have comment and question sheets outside. Feel free to write them down and we can take them and act upon them. Okay, so I want to introduce the second of the two applicants to the 2147 Washington Street site. The second team is the New Urban Collaborative. They'll have 15 minutes to present. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I am Jeffrey Dubard. I'm a partner with New Urban Collaborative. I want to begin by apologizing. I came down with food poisoning last night, so I'm a little under the weather. I want to begin by, saying that I think this is an exciting time for Dudley Square. We have the potential to do some really great things here that that will, bring about some growth that's needed in the neighborhood, but that needs to be mindful of what exists here now. Many of you I know from the past 3 meetings that have gone on at Black Market about gentrification, about change, about how the future could potentially go here. And what we are intending to do is not simply build a building in the neighborhood, but build something that's part of the neighborhood, to be involved going forward. To that end, I will say that our construction partner is Janie Construction. The question that was posed earlier about Madison, the STEM program that Madison is currently has, is something that we are entirely open to being a part of our development, as is Youth Build and a number of local organizations. From the standpoint of how we envisioned what should be built at 2147 Washington, we believe that in order for something positive to happen on that location, it needs to involve an arts and cultural component, a residential component, and an artist live work component. So all of those are part of our plan, as is the involvement of Haley House. When the RFP came out, the first person I reached out to was Bing. And anything that we do there is going to incorporate Haley House as part of it. They're a vital and important part of the square and what happens next. And we fully intend to embrace that and work with them. As far as I know, they haven't committed to partnering with either project. They're going to wait and see what happens, which which we certainly appreciate. In terms of our design and vision, I'm going to turn it over to my partner Ryan to take it from here. And again, we want all of your involvement, not just today, but going forward. To that end, you can go to our website and give us feedback. I will be available to chat with any and everyone. Give any and everyone my cell phone number to call me anytime. And you know, as I said, we're committed to being part of this community, not just in building this building, but going forward. So thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Ryan Link. I'm a principal at New Urban Collaborative and also a partner at Zephyr Architects, the design faction of this project. First of all, I'd like to just say hello to everyone. I see a lot of familiar faces here, which is nice. And it's especially nice to see a lot of new faces that we haven't seen before. I think it's really important that all of you come to meetings like this and have your opinions heard by us and by the city. As Jeffrey mentioned, we have a team here that we've tried very hard to organize in such a way that we touch on the minority and women-owned businesses that is a desirable part of this project and all of the projects here in Dudley Square, but also contains a great deal of expertise that we feel fits very nicely in Dudley Square. And in particular, I'd like to just point out Samira Ahmadi, who's here with us today from NV Energy, who's our sustainability engineer. We've partnered with Greg Janey of Janey Construction Management to be our sort of boots on the ground, initializing the project and getting it built for us, should we be fortunate enough to win this or the other one. And we're working with Graffito SP, which is a ground floor retail and neighborhood programming consultant that has done a lot of work to activate Kendall Square and other places around Boston and New York City to really bring life and vibrancy and make real change to neighborhoods and create places. And then finally, I'd like to also just mention we've engaged Raber Umframore and Stephanie Sherman of Supervisions, which is an artist work-live consultancy that the city is leaning very heavily on to write new guidelines that will be published shortly. And we have been very active in trying to bring their vision into this project as well. And I think that one of the things that makes this set of projects unique is that it brings an opportunity to do a lot of constructive things in a neighborhood that has a great memory. And as such, we viewed this project and the other one that we're looking at with an eye toward the urban design opportunities that it creates, and not just looking specifically at the single parcel, but how the parcels that we're looking at affect the whole neighborhood. And we've engaged Carol Johnson, IBI Group Landscape Architects, to help us with that. And I think what we're hoping for is something that has a real impact in a positive way in all of Dudley Square, not just on the parcels that we're looking at. As Jeffrey mentioned, all of this information is available on our website, newurbancollaborative.com. You can also visit our work at zephyr-a.com and reach out to any of us at any time about questions or comments you may have through those avenues. So, as I mentioned, we're looking at two parcels here, and in this session we're talking about 2147, obviously. We feel that the entire Washington and Warren Street corridor that makes up Dudley Square is very important. And one of the things that strikes us the most about this is that there are three main gateways, which you can see in red on the screen, that currently don't have great markers in terms of coming in and going out and defining the place. We would like to make a difference in that way. And in the other green nodes that you see located throughout the plan, we feel those are primary strategic opportunities to create green nodes that transform the landscape of the sidewalks, the streets, all of the parts of the neighborhood that you all engage on a daily basis. Everything from the striping of the lines on the streets, street furniture, to how the curbs and sidewalks interface with the streets and the buildings, and then of course the various softscape elements that go along with that. Our hope is that if we do all of that, it will address some of the problems that are systemic and long-going in this neighborhood that cause people to feel unsafe and that are root causes of businesses not being able to take root here and stay for a long time. Primarily safety, cleanliness, issues of loitering, and things that really affect the pride of the neighborhood. Along those lines, we imagine 2147, of course, being a key component of this. And as such, we've defined the building as a creative platform. The idea being that the first two floors of the building at the front meet the street at relatively the same height as the lower buildings, as you see in the plan to the left. We imagine as the neighborhood grows and the buildings around it are built out as of right, the heights around the building will increase, but our primary interaction with Washington Street will remain low at 2 stories. As the building moves back deeper into the site, we have another 2 stories that get added. Those 2 stories are the artist work live floors that sit on top of what we're calling this creative platform, which is a primarily public way to engage with what's happening on floors 3 and 4, which I'll talk more about later. And then finally, as you move back to the plane of the Haley House and beyond, we're adding another 8 floors to take the project up to 12 stories that is entirely situated deep within the site. Those additional 8 floors contain the residential non-artist work live spaces that impact all of you most directly. So throughout all of this, we imagine that there's a good deal of community participation and engagement that will continue, similar to the outreach that's been done by the folks at Black Market. We see that continuing through construction and through the implementation of the various projects and processes and tenants that go into these buildings. And as Jeffrey mentioned, we're committed to working with things like the USGBC pilot program that exists at Madison Tech and other programs in the area to bring real life into the building. So we talked a little bit about the programming of the building. We're also bringing a deep sustainability initiative to this project. Both this and the other one on Warren Street will be LEED Platinum certified buildings with a number of innovative features that we've spoken with our engineering team about and that also support specific programming requirements of the Artist Work Live spaces. Artist Work Live is an interesting program in that it requires a great deal of flexibility, but it also requires a great deal of specificity with regards to supporting certain types of arts functions. One thing that we're very keen to do is to make sure that as we provide the Artist Work Live spaces, they are a variety of sizes, a variety of shapes, a variety of infrastructure built into the units, such as certain types of acoustical isolation, certain types of floors, electrical support that are specific to various types of arts functions. Artist live workspaces are often seen as this kind of monolithic program that's all the same, and that's in fact not the case at all. So we're trying very hard to make that happen in a meaningful way, and that spills out into the courtyard that exists in front of the Haley House that's currently Haley House parking. We're planning on working closely with our landscape architect and with the constituents at Haley House and with various other stakeholders in the area to make sure that that is a space that becomes usable on nights and weekends, that can flip from being parking to being programmed activity space similar to what happens at the SOA Market. Also, the inside face of our building will have a great deal of projection space, blank wall, as well as glass that accesses directly into the artist live workspaces that can be used as display spaces for the artists. One final thing that we've tried to take on in this building in particular is an initiative that was brought up to us by the BPDA, which is one of structural innovation. And in 2147 Washington, we're proposing what's called Type 4 construction, which is heavy timber construction. It's a deeply sustainable way of building tall buildings that originated a few years ago and has taken hold in Scandinavia and also in places in the northwestern United States, but hasn't really made its way to the Northeast yet. And we're going to be trying to sort of drive that initiative forward and bring this type of innovation into Dudley Square and bring a certain level of pride, not only in the tenancy and the program of the building, but in the way the building is put together. And along with that, I think it's important to point out that we're sensitive to the context of the area, and we're trying very hard, not only with our setbacks, with the massing of the building, but to bring materiality and light and air to the building in such a way that is consistent with the fabric of Dudley Square. So I think at this point we're about out of time, and does anyone have anything they'd like to add?
I also wanted to mention, in terms of the arts and cultural component, the bottom 2 floors of our project, we've been in talks with the Boston Center for the Arts and Arts Emerson about working with us to activate that space, to create an arts and cultural program that's appropriate for the neighborhood, that represents Roxbury. And, you know, we are excited to, you know, go forward with one of those guys. So anyway, thank you guys.
Thank you, New Urban Collaborative. Again, within 15 minutes, I want to thank you for that. Recognize you. So now we have a 15-minute comment question period. If anyone has a comment or question, Hussein, come on up.
Can you talk the below market office space? Be specific, like the rent. When you talk about the below market space, the rent.
I'm sorry?
The below market space for the office or workspace.
Oh, yes. So, sorry. Yes, one of our, you know, mandates or what we believe is important is that not only the residential component is affordable, but that both the office, artist, and retail spaces are also affordable. You know, unfortunately, there isn't a program to do that, but we are committed to offering the retail space below $20 per square foot. I believe the average around here is about 24 or 25. And simply working with local businesses to make our space available for them, that will be our priority.
Come on up. And then Brian will go next. If you can just talk to the microphone. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jim Harris. Hopefully this is on. I was listening to the presentation about all the artists who will have their homes and lofts like specially made for them. But what about the owners and the renters? Are you going to have us in a little itty bitty box and just say it's just done that way, not being all, because we all don't live the same way, you know. Some has king size beds, some has queens, some needs a huge kitchen because they're, you know, they can actually really cook, unlike me who don't. So how are you going to do that in that level?
Thanks, Jim. That's a good question. We are currently proposing in this building a range of units from studios up to 3 bedrooms. They range in size from, I believe, around 500 square feet up to around 12 or 1,300 square feet. There's a good diversity, a good mix of those units throughout the building. And as the folks at Dream mentioned, the affordability guidelines mandate that unit types have to be consistent between affordable and market rate. So there won't be any, you know, size penalty, let's say, on folks who are living below that affordability threshold.
Brian.
Thank you. It was a good presentation, but I'm not seeing any numbers or percentages with regards to the affordability piece or homeownership or residential, the unit mix. There was no information in this presentation.
Yeah, I apologize for that not being clear. We do not have condominiums as part of our development. The mandate for affordability was specified by D&D, and, you know, we are holding to that. I am happy to. Yeah, do you have
Sorry, there is a slide that does have, unfortunately, very small text that describes that in the presentation here of 2147. You can download our complete presentation book from the city's website. It looks like John has some info.
For folks, if you go, we have one of the handouts. It's a quick brief summary. It's a Word document. If you flip to the side, 2147, number 2, New Urban Collaborative, and you go down about 3 or 4 bullets, the affordability, it's 67% affordable. 26 of the rental units are at or below 50% area median income. 26 are below 80% area median income, and 25 are slated as market. I'm just repeating that based on the presentation in the application. I am not a member of the team. I just wanted to pass it along. Question, comment? Fred.
You know, I want to address this question to both of yous, both developers, because I didn't have the opportunity in the beginning to talk with the first developing presentation. And my concern is the Haley House. It looks like you guys are pushing the Haley House, both of you, to try to get the community on your side. What are you doing for Haley House? Is Haley House going to be sustained from now until eternity? Are they going to be, is there a fund set aside because you're working with Haley House where Haley House is going not have to worry about being shut down again? Or are they going to have to pay rent, even the below market rent? I would like to see somebody step up to the plate and tell me that they are partners in this, and they won't have to worry about their rents anymore.
We intend and would like Haley House to be our partner in whatever we do, period. It's been somewhat difficult to this point because they haven't wanted to commit to be part of either team. This process is also somewhat difficult because, you know, the community interaction happens at the same time that the city interaction happens. But, you know, as I said, the first person that I reached out to when this RFP came out was Bing. And I am entirely committed to sustaining Haley House in whatever way works for them and for us. They are the lifeblood of this neighborhood, have been, and, you know, I would never want anything to happen but to help them stay.
Come on up. Actually, one sec. Come here.
Good morning, I'm Linda Freeman. I'm a Roxbury resident. Ditto on what Mr. Fairfield said. When I look at this plan for 2147, all I see is Haley House being pushed into a sardine can. I find that appalling, and it's been here in Dudley for quite a long time, and he's always been a community partner throughout Highland Park, throughout Roxbury, elsewhere as well. Can you explain to me how his customers are supposed to park somewhere? That doesn't make any sense. You actually squishing him out, and if you want him as, you know, Haley House to be in perpetuity, this doesn't make sense. You just shut out all the parking, and you have to explain something better to me.
Thanks for your question. I certainly understand where you're coming from, and I'd like to just mention a couple things in that regard. I should have pointed out in the presentation that our building has a full footprint of underground parking, including some spaces for green hookups and zip cars and et cetera. So that portion of the parking that's being negated by the building is being replaced underground. The portion of parking in front of the Haley House on Haley House's parcel is being maintained. So there's a net no loss of parking on our site. Additionally, we're looking toward Haley House to help us program that space between the buildings in front of their building. The side of the Haley House that leads back along the parking edge is effectively a blank wall. So we're not encroaching upon any Haley House visibility out or usable Haley House space. We're trying to actually take the space that we can to reinforce Haley House's program in front of the Haley House. Yes. That's all being handled at the back of the building. There's a service court at the back of the building.
Sophia, go ahead.
My name is Sophia Transtamar. I'm a resident of Roxbury. Could the development team explain specifically or clearly what your community benefits proposal or intentions are, and how does your community benefits exceed the construction period?
Thank you. So the principal benefit that we're providing beyond the building, and I'll talk about the building itself in just a second, is a landscape effort in the entire neighborhood, running from Dudley Ave to Melnia Cass and everything in between on Warren and Washington Streets, including trying to, I guess, sort of spruce up the connection to Ruggles so that the residents who live kind of below the project line can move across Washington and Warren to access the Orange Line. Yes, sorry about that. So we're proposing that everything from the Melnia Cass intersection to the Dudley intersection on Washington and Warren streets gets re-landscaped, including a connection on Ruggles Street to help facilitate a safer and more pleasant connection to the T station. Other community benefits are, again, the parking court in front of the Haley House, which we're taking a similar approach with. It will remain parking during business hours, and it will flip to social activity uses in the evenings and on weekends. And finally, what we're calling this creative platform in the 2147 building has 2 floors of flexible programming, including intensive uses and less intensive uses that can overlap one another, that are accessible by the community. So it goes from the ground level up into the 2nd floor. You'll notice in the plan there's an atrium with space open to below, so that is communicating space that's going to be a part of the community, really. Thanks.
1 second, Linda. Dorothea, I know you had your hand up.
I have a couple of questions. One of them is, I want to know who from the city will monitor the construction of the projects based on whoever wins, whoever has final destination for completing it. I want to know, are they committed, whoever wins the development, are they committed to meeting with community monitors, which is already in place and has been monitoring for at least 10 years. I want to know if they're committed to participating and attending meetings on at least a bi-weekly basis. And the last thing I want to say is I want to know, and I think everyone should know, that in the Dudley Square area, the numbers for participation on construction projects is not 50, 25, 10. It is 51, 51, 15. And we would expect that whoever is doing the project will commit to making sure that those are the goals they try to fulfill.
And Dorothea just referred to, I think it's the new standards, probably, I think it was 2 years in the making. It's 50, 50, and 14. Who's going to monitor? It's going to be the Office of Economic Development. It's the Equity and Inclusion Unit. That's the Boston Resident Jobs Policy. Something that hasn't been mentioned, we mentioned in the beginning, there's this inclusion, there is the minority enterprise and women-owned enterprise element that the RFP asks each applicant to respond to. In essence, what are those minority-owned and women-owned businesses in the team, but also when you look at the construction, all the subcontractors. So that's something that we are evaluating. Fred, yeah.
And I'll also just say that I think I can also speak for Greg's team. Like, we would welcome and hope for community involvement throughout the process, bi-weekly, weekly, regularly. We will find a way to involve anybody who wants to be involved in what we do. I will be there. Yeah.
Just a point of clarification for me. I'm looking at this map here, and are you saying that all of those circles of redesign is part of your package?
The short answer, thank you for the question, is yes. And we're also hoping to impact areas outside of the circle as well, connecting them. We're taking a hard look at areas specifically in the circle because they're kind of pressure points. You know, the area right outside in front of the bowling building here is a great example. There are stripes paved in the triangle where the street forks, and it's a very tenuous situation for people on foot, on bicycles, and in cars. So it's those kinds of conditions that we want to not just mitigate, but really take ownership of and make a lot better.
We'll have time for one more question. Ma'am, come on up. Thank you. Thank you.
I guess my question is related to the programming on the first 2 levels and I guess the second tier of the 4 levels. How was the Boston Center for the Arts and Arts Emerson selected, and are they kind of locked in partners, and what does it look like, and why wasn't the community involved in that process? I think that's something that's really key and important. And then is that committed? Like, are you okay?
No.
Can you speak to that?
And you know, it's a difficult process because obviously we haven't been designated. So my conversations with both of those organizations have you know, been to some degree theoretical. They are excited about being involved here, and you know, and working with us. But you know, I see this whole process as, you know, if we get designated as being one that involves the community, involves feedback, involves us, frankly, just planning some of this stuff together. So they are wonderful organizations, as far as I believe, who have both committed to programming that space in an appropriate way for Dudley and for Roxbury. So we will go forward from there.
Definitely not to take anything away from Boston Center for the Arts or Arts Emerson, but we just want to really make sure that there's community involvement and input in as it relates to what is programmed in that space, and that it's appropriate and culturally relevant.
The relevancy is incredibly important to me, and both of those organizations, I feel, have shown a commitment to that, and you know, it was a mandate of mine when I first approached them that what happened here, or what happens here, has to be culturally and artistically appropriate for the history of the neighborhood. Yes. I welcome those discussions, and you know, as I said, you know, I see this as sort of the beginning of the process, and what happens from here is sort of, you know, a framework for a plan, and then we all figure it out together.
And I would add to that real quick that that's specifically why we've involved Supervisions and Graffito in the process, because those organizations are specifically designed to do exactly what you're asking for, to to manage the process and pull the feedback from the community directly into the project. So,
Thank you very much for the comments and the questions. That is going to conclude the 2147 portion of this presentation. We've had the two applicants present their plans. We've had opportunities for comments and questions. We're now going to transition to the 40-50 Warren Street site. We have two applicants. We're going to do the same process, a 15-minute presentation, 15-minute questions, 15-minute presentation, 15-minute questions. So we're looking at approximately another hour. We hope everyone can hang out. If you need to stretch your legs, you'll notice if you're in the lobby, we have television so you can actually see the presentation and you can see the PowerPoint. But we hope you hang with us just for a minute. We're going to start with 40-50 right now. Jeffrey?